Yes, people, welcome to another episode of the Top 4 Football Podcast, arguably the best football podcast in the world. It's been a while since we dropped that little catchphrase. This week, the Top 3 podcast, myself, Rob, and Nath, just letting you know for the audio listeners. Jack hasn't made it. Now, the first topic of conversation, what do you think of that?
Two 3-0 losses on the bounce for United. I think he can't face the music, to be honest.
I
I
said
think
to him in the
he
group
was going to
chat.
get a bit of grief on it, let's be fair. We wouldn't let him get off lightly, so.
I said that in the group
Worried
before.
about him.
It stinks of Gary Neville before Monday Night Football. When Carragher called him out for not being there. So yeah, hopefully Jax makes it. Maybe he'll make it after Ten Hag gets sacked. But we talk enough about United, and we're not going to do that today. But we all good, boys.
Yeah, top of the world. Enjoying League Cup in the week. Apart from that, everything in my footballing life is going pretty smoothly.
Yeah, to be fair, buzzing so far this season. It's been pretty good. A couple of VAR decisions early on, but, Liverpool seem to be quite strong. If they get out this season without a trophy, it'd be disappointing, to be honest. They look like a force to be reckoned with.
I haven't even really looked who's still in the Carabao Cup, but I do fancy Liverpool to give it a good go. I think you got West Ham in the semi. That'd be interesting.
Liverpool
In the
favourites right
quarters,
now.
yeah.
Three big teams. If you say, was it Liverpool, Chelsea, Newcastle, and it's Chelsea, Newcastle the next round, isn't it? So Liverpool must fancy that.
Oh,
Yeah,
a Newcastle Liverpool fan would be good. A bit of 90s nostalgia.
Love that, yeah. But I hope a smaller team gets through. To be honest,
like Liverpool.
Middlesbrough still in it. That'd be good.
Yeah.
West Ham obviously battered Arsenal last night, so they'll give us a good go. They're not a bad team. They seem like they've dropped off in the Prem ever since Antonio came out and said that he believed that West Ham were going to finish higher than Liverpool, and then we went out and just smashed them. So they've seemed to be off the boil since then.
Well, the thing is, probably knowing West Ham, they'll finish 12th and they'll win the Carabao Cup, and that means they won't be able to get rid of Moisey. But we'll see. I'm sure we can do a little Carabao review preview after when it comes to the next round. But today we're foreshadowing what could potentially happen in the January transfer window. You know, we're about 10 games in. Few cups go in, few signings might have gone well, might have not gone well. So we're going to look at who could be on the move in January, because it goes so well for this podcast where we look into the future. We always get the predictions right. So to start off with, we're going to think about a player that we think needs a move. Okay. Someone who really could benefit from a move in January. So I'm going to go to Robert to sort of, cast his crystal ball and tell us who do you think needs a move in January?
You call me Robert fully then. That doesn't happen too often. It was
Bit formal.
very formal, sir. I didn't want to go first, but I will go first because I thought I would predict what you guys were going to say. I am very biased in the world towards Harry Kane. So the other day went through quite that big wormhole checking out the Bundesliga, and I thought, how many goals ahead of anyone else must Harry Kane be at the top of the top goal scorer? And I was shocked to find out Harry Kane was not the top goal scorer in the Bundesliga by 2 clear goals. And there is a man by the name of Sierru Girassi at the top of the Bundesliga who plays for Stuttgart. And he scored 14 goals in 8 games. And I thought, that's very good on paper. I'm not saying I didn't take it seriously, but my Harry Kane bias was kicking in. So I had a nice little look through the goals this guy scored. On the Bundesliga website, the official website, which is a wonderful website. It's very fun and easy to navigate. And this guy has scored some fucking brilliant goals this year. He's chipped the goalkeeper 3 or 4 times. He has the epitome of that cliche of the ball looking like it was glued to his foot, because there's some of the runs he does, and I can't quite figure out how he does it. He scored strong headers as well. He scored from out the box. Every goal he scores is pretty great. And Stuttgart are currently third in the Bundesliga, which is not going to stay. It's not going to stay like that for very long. Let's be honest. They've had an easy run, and he's hit the ground running. And I miss having strikers in the Premier League. I'm a big striker bias as well, and I always think the big clubs should be looking to have a prolific goal scorer up front. And I don't know why someone wouldn't just punt 50 million on this guy who's scoring these absolutely wonderful goals. So I'm going to go for a Seru Girassi, who I've done a bit of a digging on. I don't know if you guys are familiar or not.
No, you've thrown me completely off. I wasn't expecting a foreign player, to be honest. Go on, Nath.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, yeah, I have seen that pop up a couple of bits, like on Facebook and Instagram videos and things like that, some of his stuff. And like I said, yeah, scored some nice goals. I think he's had 2 hat tricks. Maybe I'm getting that wrong.
Yeah, two hat tricks. Yeah,
yeah, which again, massively impressive. But with German, in the German league, sometimes he can't adapt well if they come up to the Premier League. Timo Werner, for example, didn't do a great job. Obviously, you got the example then of Haaland. He's come across. He's been amazing.
I must say, I agreed with that until when I saw it on paper, until I watched all the goals, and I thought, oh, okay, these are some serious goals that he's scoring. I agree.
How old is he, roughly?
I think he's 27. So he's been around a bit. He's been around a few clubs in Germany and France, I believe. I think he used to play for Armians, where Andy Carroll is now. But yeah.
Who do you think could benefit from him in the Prem?
I mean, I think let's go right to the top. I do think Arsenal need someone up, a striker. I mean, Nketiah scored a hat trick. I know that sounds silly, but I don't know if they're going to show that much faith in him. Chelsea could sign him. I don't have an answer for that, and I tried to think of an answer for that prior to the podcast, and I couldn't figure it out because there's loads of clubs. I do, however, potentially envision this transfer window there being a domino effect with like potentially Osherman and Tony. And then some clubs could buy them, and then Napoli and Brentford might go out and try to buy other strikers. So we could be able to plot some sort of chart related to that potentially. Yeah,
I think that's a theme. I think we'll maybe touch on it a bit more. But strikers, like you said, they're a dying breed. They are a dying breed, and they're world absolute gold. Brentford came out the other day and said they want 100 million for Ivan Toney after he's been out for 6 months, which is.
He's a class striker, though. Let's be fair.
I think they'll get 80.
He's a bollocks. He always bets on himself as well. Fair play.
Yeah. There's one player who I in particular was just thought of then, Rob, when you said him, and I just tried to quickly look at it, and I didn't get to find out too much. But Patrick Schick. Now, you remember him? He played for Czech Republic, and he played in the Euro 2020. And he was like the hottest property. Do you remember? I think he banged like 3 goals in the Euros. One of them was like a worldie against Scotland. He was scoring goals in the German Bundesliga. And I'm just trying to see what happened to him. I don't know. Is he on the table for the top goal scorers? Because my point is that I think Nate was alluding to it. Bundesliga does not mean they're going to bang.
I absolutely do understand that, mate. But like I said, I thought that when I read it, and then when I watched all the goals together, the runs he was making, the way he was sending to defenders completely the other way, I thought this guy seems very good at football and scoring goals. So throw him out.
Let's see what happens then. Let's see what happens. And the thing is, he's playing for Stuttgart. I imagine maybe 16 of the Premier League teams are paying better wages than Stuttgart. So he might not even end up at a big club, No,
absolutely. He could go to Brentford potentially. I think I could see that potentially happening to them for half the price they would sell Tony for. Yeah.
I'll tell you what team could benefit from having like a decent striker at the moment. I think I was going to come on to you. I think there was a question that you were going to ask after this, but yeah, just alluding to that now, a team that needs a player, I'd say Fulham. Definitely need a striker since Mitrovic. They're not doing terribly at the moment, but yeah, I mean they need like an out and out striker at the moment. Someone who's going to finish everything off, and they've missed a lot of chances. I think they've only scored 9 goals so far this season. Like they're down there in probably the top in the lowest 5. Sorry, scoring teams.
Yeah, there are enough strikers in the Premier League right now. I miss having out and out strikers on match of the day on the weekend. You know.
Don't I fucking know it? Like I'm absolutely dying in the draft because I've got like no decent strikers. It is what it is. Just not getting any points every week. Just getting absolutely drilled by everyone else.
I agree, and it's sort of I'll go with my next player. So I mean, the player that he's sort of a striker, he's sort of a winger. He's one of those typical 2023 players that are like in the middle. Leandro Trossard. Now, I just see him right, and he gets bought for in January. He sort of kicks up a fuss, goes to Arsenal. He seems to score or do something every time he comes off the bench, and if not every time, a lot of the time. But you just feel like he surely wants to be starting now.
You'd think so. When you've got Martinelli and Saka in front of you, it's tough to get in there.
He's not young, you know what I mean? Like, he plays for Belgium. Surely now he'd be thinking, I haven't been able to break into the Arsenal team. I've done loads every time I come off. Unless he wants to stick around and try and get a Premier League medal this season, I could really see him moving in January, and I can see him moving to like, a really, really top club. I think United would love to have a player like him. I think I could see him doing really well in Liverpool, but I don't think Liverpool have got any space in that position, to be honest. But
no.
I feel like he's the sort of player that Liverpool would love to have. I just think like
he doesn't get in over Diaz, does he? Let's be fair.
In terms of top performers, he's 28 now as well, so he's probably got one big move left. Is he ever going to get into the Arsenal team with Martinelli and Saka? I don't know. What are you going to say, Rob?
He's not. He's had a lot less game time this year, and I think I am looking at it now, but I did look earlier. He has less influence than I realised this year. I mean, he's got 2 goals, but I thought he would have had a few assists in there in the league.
I think he's had 3 starts, maybe 2 starts.
Yeah, he started. Mm. When do you remember I put him up front in our team? I got ripped for it, but I like him in that position. Last season, I thought that was the best transfer of the January, and I thought that transfer could have potentially won them the league. I thought that and Jorginho for a little bit of experience in January. The sort of the boost the squad transfer, which sort of January's become. I thought that could have won them the league, and now that it hasn't, it seems like they're sort of going in a bit of a different direction. So I completely agree that now could definitely be the time to move him over to a different team, and I will get back onto that later on, I think. But yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
And, one thing I did see as well, and I don't know how much I believe it, is apparently Arsenal are still interested in Modric, and Chelsea apparently, it's paper talk. Chelsea apparently would be like, if they could get anything close to what they paid, they'd take it because they've signed him on an 8-year deal or whatever it is. And apparently Arteta still fancy it. I mean, this stinks a bit of Havertz, but anyway.
I don't know about that. He pissed off too many fans.
True. But what I would say is Chelsea is a club I could see Trossard going to, and really doing something. But anyway, that's sort of my pick for someone who's a transfer. Nath, finishing up with you, who do you think a player that you think needs a move?
Yeah, I was just thinking, just a bit of a fresh start for this player. I had quite a lot of injuries in their team, but he's shown his quality this season. Looking at Pedro Neto over at Wolves, currently highest assists in the league so far this season. I think, if he's fully recovered and fully fit, he's a top class player. And I think one of the big teams, maybe like a United or Chelsea, could benefit from having him in the squad. They're a bit lackluster for goals at the moment, and someone with his quality giving assists, that's what you want, isn't it?
He starts for United.
100%. Yeah,
he is an absolute upgrade on Anthony. 100%.
It links to what you just said. I feel like I saw it saying that he's linked to Arsenal. Did I read this? I think he's linked to Arsenal, which one that would domino effect what James just said. But But yeah, I think I've seen him linked with a big club, and I'm pretty sure it was Arsenal. Yeah.
He's only 23. Like I said, he's been plagued by injuries, which is why I think he spent half the season out. It was either last season or the season before. He's had ankle and knee injuries, so he's not had the best start to his young career. But I think the way he started off this season, in that Wolves team where they were struggling last season, he's given them a massive boost and helping them score goals along the way. And that's a big club should be looking at that, thinking, right, if he stays fit all the way to January, let's try and snap him up. That's what I'd think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that too. It feels a little bit too easy to say Man City could sign him, but I agree. It's Wolves have been a very interesting club the last 12 months, I would say. Very unpredictable, but he has been a glimmer of hope in that team, isn't he?
Yeah, well, Gary O'Neill's doing a fantastic job over there as well, isn't it? Like I said, bringing them from the brink of relegation and keeping them up and, well, like not keeping them up, sorry, get them into a much better position than last season, sorry.
Very deservedly, that man.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good shout, Nath. Like I said, I think because he was out so long, maybe we wait a little to see how long he survives. But I suppose if he plays all the games, starts all the games, and he gets to January, I mean that would prove he is fit. So yeah, definitely, and he looks so good. Looks so good. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he went. Another thing we wanted to look at was a team, and we sort of touched on it a little bit. Is we've sort of looked at a player needs to move. What team needs a player? And every team needs a player. Every team will have a weakness. But looking at what teams could do in the window, and I don't want to go. I'm gonna go first this time. And I wanted to try and go out of the box. But at the same time, I know I'm not going out of the box by saying that a team needs a striker because after the league needs a striker. But what I am going to go for is based off the beginning of the season. I'm going to go with Spurs. I feel like Spurs, right, have started so well, and they're cooking, and everyone's on the Ange train, and I'm fully on the Ange train. But when you look at their squad, if Son gets injured, if Maddison gets injured, those are the two key ones. If Kula gets injured, maybe you've got Solomon on the bench. Richarlison is struggling. I just think what would be a statement, if Tottenham goes, if they got to January and Tottenham is still in the top 2 and they're within 3 points of the league, Daniel Levy goes, are we ever going to have a better chance to win the league? Tottenham need to go out and get a striker. And if not a guaranteed starter, they need to get someone who's going to be ready and to go behind Son. Because we gave Rob a bit of stick when he picked his combined 11 and he put Son down the middle. But Son is doing well down the middle. But at the same time, like I said, if they're a bit short on the ground when it comes to replacements. So I do think that Spurs are looking good, but if they could get a striker, they haven't replaced Kane. They've got, I think they should have quite a little bit of money there to spend. I'm not sure Trossard's the answer, but I don't dislike that transfer. But I just think if they could get a striker, either as a backup or someone to come straight in, and then Son can play on the left, and then Richarlison goes to the bench or something, I think that would really give Spurs a fighting chance of winning the league.
Yeah, I must admit I was going to say something about Spurs as well. It's very similar to this, and I actually was going to say Trossard as well. I went Palace. I went Palace Spurs last week, Nath. And it was a bit. I'm not a virgin or anything, but when I watch the big teams, I like to do my own little player cam sometimes. So I had a few minutes. I just watched Son, and I was like, oh, he's really good. I watched Maddison. I was like, oh, he's also really good. And you could tell they had this telepathy, the way they were making runs and stuff. Did it with Richarlison for a bit, and I just thought he's just not. He's just looked a little bit. He just didn't look as naturally making the runs and looking up and seeing his teammates the same way,
out of his depth, sort of thing.
He did seem out of his depth, to be honest. He didn't have a bad game. But then they brought on Mr. Brennan Johnson in the left wing, and the two best goals of this season for me have been the City's when they started from the goalkeeper and Howland scored the other day. But Spurs scored basically the same goal. They had a play that came out from the goalkeeper. Brennan Johnson gets the ball, heads it forwards, makes a run and wins it back again, which Richarlison absolutely wouldn't have done, and then passes it to Son and he scores. If they play like that all season, they'll win the league, like absolutely. And I know the issue we then get to is having an injury that's going to throw them up. So for me, I would say if Richarlison is starting and Brennan Johnson's on the bench, it's not the striker I'm looking for. It's someone who can play across, someone who's just adaptable, who can play across that front three and maybe in the attacking role, much like Mr. Leandro Trossard. Neto plays both wings as well, so I think Neto could do it as well. But yeah, it's interesting that you said Spurs. Yeah,
I think Neto goes above Spurs. I think that's how well he's doing, and I think Trossard. You don't see many Arsenal or Tottenham transfers, so
of course, of course. I didn't even
but I agree. I did forget about Brennan Johnson, but I just think they just need that little bit, maybe like a bit more of a focal point, like a bit more of someone who's going to just grab a goal, which Richarlison just isn't really doing. You know, like I'll be honest, like if he was kicking up in the reserves, I would have said get Lukaku in on half a season. Do you know what I mean? Like I just feel like they need a little bit of something a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? Just a little, like someone else a little bit different, just for Tottenham, just to, when it gets to the end of the season, if they're still going for the top, you need that little bit of something.
Someone like Sieru Giassi, perhaps.
Potentially.
Put a report into Big Ange.
Because I hadn't really heard of him before the podcast, so I'm not going to pretend that he's the answer. But you've done well there, Rob.
Thanks.
Good research.
I'm a journalist, boys. It's who I am. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
Go on, Nate.
Go on
then.
Yeah.
I'll crack on mine, is it? Like, to be fair, I think you've covered everything with Spurs, but I've got nothing to add on there. I was, like I mentioned earlier, I touched on, I think Fulham need a striker as well. But because you've sort of gone into a striker, I think let's have a look at something different. Someone who's desperately needing players as well in a good position, fit players more than anything else. It says Man United, isn't it? Like they're using Johnny Evans and Maguire, who are, Johnny Evans has come back into the team, haven't he, this season, and Maguire is not exactly favoured. Martinez and Varane currently out injured. I think they need to look at getting a quality defender in at January if they want to try and salvage anything, even make top 6 this season if they're lucky. But maybe it'll do them a world of good as well, like being outside the top 7, not having any European football, because they're struggling massively at the moment doing Champions League as well. I think they're currently 3rd in the group, 8th or 9th in the Prem as well. They could do with a defender massively. I think that's a huge problem for them. And the team just not gelling, plagued by injuries. But like I said, when Onana's not had a good start, a quality defender could help that massively.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys would think about that.
I agree, and I keep thinking to myself, which team is going to be the one to spend 80 million on Mark Guy? And now I think could very well be United, So I think someone's going to pay that money for him because that's what he's worth in this market.
Mate, the amount of money that they've spent on players, and they've been just poor showings, like Anthony, for example. Højlund so far has not scored at all in the Prem. They spent, was it 60 or 70 million on him? They're not very responsible with money. Like Ten Hag seems to be kicking up about players that he wants, but I don't think it's the players that he needs. That's what they should. Someone should be telling him, no, let's take a step back and have a look at the players that we actually need at the moment, where we're suffering. And like I said, if they're plagued by injuries in their centre backs, get a fucking centre back in.
I honestly, I think you've made a really good point. I think United definitely need a defender, and they need players in. The fact Johnny Evans is playing is actually bonkers. Like even though he started like maybe 4 or 5 games now, every time he comes on, I'm like, Johnny Evans is playing for Manchester United in 2023. It's actually bonkers. But I almost feel like anything we say about Man United right now is pointless, because the next couple of weeks, we don't know what's going to happen. Because
the train is fully coming into the station.
Because if there's changes, then I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like anything could happen. In the defense, though, I think
could be some sackings.
To be fair, in the defense, I don't think much can change really. So you are right, and I think they will sign a defender anyway. But in attack, I think there'll be some interesting changes potentially if Ten Hag was to go. Maybe a Mr. Sancho is waiting for that to happen, but we'll see.
He's just waiting by the phone, like just to be allowed back into the fucking training facility.
Definitely, definitely. And I feel like we can't really talk about United whilst Jack's not here. But
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And also, by the time this podcast comes out, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. But you're right. I think Marquet would be a really good signing, for Man U.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember I said to you once, James, I said, what's the actual percentage chance of Steve McLaren at some point being like the interim manager of Manchester United? And I think it's more possible now than ever at some point we could have Steve McLaren interim manager of Manchester United. And I, for one, can't wait. Because I tell you what, Maguire would start every game in the McLaren ball. But yeah, after Ten Hag year is over. It's over. Let's accept it now, move on to whatever's next, you know? But yeah, that's a really good point, Nath. I was originally going to go for my Tottenham argument, and then I changed it quickly on the spot, and I wrote Manchester United defender. So that was two things on the row. So
my bad, mate. Yeah, like I said, I was going to stick with Fulham to start with, but I already touched on it. I thought I'd go something different. Let's go away from a striker. What have you got for us in midfield? Who needs a midfielder?
Midfielder? Oh well, I was actually I don't know about midfield, but I did write I did scramble some notes that I that Brighton don't keep many clean sheets. I know it's the football Brighton play, but I think there have been far too many games without clean sheets for a team which I'm sick of hearing about how great their recruitment is. I'm not sure Lewis Dunk and Adam Webster is like the progressive centre back pairing. So I would suggest that at some point in the near future, Brighton are going to have to flesh out the defence a little bit more with a few maybe guaranteed / certified great defenders in that squad. I don't know if they have, I don't really know how much money Brighton have apart from the money that's come in. But
They must have a bit.
They've got to have a bit, haven't they? The fucking money they've made off Chelsea over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
but
Jesus, absolutely fucking robbing them.
You don't have a name, do you, Rob? You're just saying they're going to sign a defender from the Belgian league or something, and they're going to turn out to be mint.
No, but I'm so bored of that narrative. But every time you see Brighton play on television, they're like, "Oh, great recruitment." It's like, "Oh, well done. You got James Milner and Lallana for free from Liverpool. Well done." You know, they always say it. I don't know why they can't. If teams like West Ham were linked with Harry Maguire, I don't know why Brighton aren't linked with teams of that players of that caliber, because they're not. You don't really hear them linked with Bayern players who are established. So I think they should just go out and get a certified decent Premier League defender or a good progressive defender and step up that defensive game.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think if they go for that, it'd be like a loan signing. I could see. Do you know what I mean? Like a stopgap sort of signing. But I just think you might not like it, Rob, but the Brighton chairman likes it. You know, signing these guys from nobody, turning out to be mint, selling them off for millions. But yeah, maybe they will sign a defender that people have heard of before. Just before we wrap up, we wanted to just quickly look at. We haven't really had a chance yet, to look at the bottom of the table much this year. Mainly because it's been so boring. 3 promoted teams have gone up. Arguably, the 3 worst teams to have gone up for a few seasons. Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield all in the bottom 3. Sheffield yet to win a game. Just a sort of, do we see that staying like it for the rest of the season?
It's not looking good for them, is it? They've all been a bit lackluster. Just every game they're not scoring enough goals, of course, And the only one that I think have been a bit unlucky is Burnley, because watching a couple of games of them, they look like they're playing good football, but then the Vincent Kompany press is so high, like trying to do like a Liverpool or a Man City, they get them beaten on counters, and from set pieces, I believe, as well, is another big leaky bucket, to be honest. Yeah, but like Luton and Sheffield, just it's no. You hate to say it. It seems like it's that quality isn't there to help them stay up at all. Burnley might have some changes now. Like they might be able to turn it around. It's the only thing I'd say with Burnley, and then maybe Bournemouth might drop in there, but so far it's not looking good for three of them.
Yeah, yeah. I don't fancy Burnley. I mean, again, it makes it sound like I got a vendetta because I said it a few times. I think you say that they're playing nice football, that they're playing well. If they're down the table, that's not trying to play this pressing football when you're low down. That's not good football then. If you're losing, you know what I mean? Like, and I find it a little frustrating. And Company always going on about that bloody drum they've got. He's like, oh, we've got that drum in the stand. Oh, we need someone new to come and bang that drum louder. That's not the issue, Vincent. Take your cap off for starters, and then start doing some proper lower league management. I think he's done, and I think Sheffield U are done. I think Luton could potentially overtake Bournemouth. I think that's the only way it could happen if Bournemouth go down, because I think Everton and Forest will figure it out. Everton will worm their way out, and Forest will Steve Cooper their way out. But Bournemouth, I don't know how they'll do. So you expect it to be this three, but I do hope Luton. And Luton bring in such weird players, don't they? They're always rumored they could get such a rogue player in
Adebayor in January or something.
Yeah, they could get. I don't know. Insert funny footballer name. That could be who plays for Luton in January, and then get him a few points. So yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Just for the story, yeah, go on.
I think I don't know. Like I think Sheffield are done. Like Sheffield are cooked. They shouldn't even bothered. I think
they didn't bother.
I think Luton as well.
Their show so far.
I think Luton are going to huff and puff, but I think they're going to just it stinks a little bit of like Blackpool. Do you know what I mean? When they came up, I think they're going to huff and puff, but they're not going to quite have enough. I don't know if it's just because I like Company, but I just feel like because they came top last year, they just get a win or a couple of wins. I could just see them getting a little bit of form. And I think, like it is with a lot of relegation teams, it isn't about being good. It's just about being the fourth worst team. All right? That's what they're all thinking about now. There's already a 4-point gap between Bournemouth and Nottingham. I worry about Bournemouth as well because Areola done a really good job at Real VARguably, but it's not really going there. Oh, there's two things.
In there as well, both on 10 points, aren't they?
Everton's points deduction could come into play. Don't really want to talk about that because we're talking about ifs and buts. And what I'll finish on is I am worried about Fulham. And I think they could get dragged in. Now, I don't think they're worse than the three teams. But if I see a team getting dragged in I think the bottom four right now are going to be the four down there the whole season. If there's a fifth team to get dragged in, I think it's Fulham because I just think Nottingham have got a little bit more about them. They've got a little bit more, like they've got Chris Wood come off who will score. They've got some other players, Gibbs White, the other player they've got striker, Nigerian striker. Like they've got some goals in there. Fulham have not got any goals up front. I think I'm not going to try and show. I'm not big on Harry Wilson. Do you know what I mean? Those sort of players. So I think Fulham could get dragged in. And if I think there's one team who could maybe pull out, it's Burnley. But other than that, if I was putting a bet on it, I'd say those three are going down. But if there's one to come out, I think it's Burnley.